In the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, there is no peace, there is only time for war. This is the titular saying of the Warhammer 40k setting. Now, there are nigh infinite amounts of battles constantly going on. However, one of the most emblematic of the setting would be the touted Siege of Vraks. This occurred in 813 M41, when an ambitious assassination attempt on an infamous Cardinal Xaphan failed spectacularly, leaving the world amidst chaos, and necessitating the Astra Militarum 88th Siege Regiment to be called forth. Now, this is the very well-loved Death Korps of Krieg, the masters of siegecraft and self-destruction, who were tasked to wage one of the greatest, single most epic sieges upon the traitorous forces who had taken over the Imperial armory world of Vraks Prime. But this wasn't any siege. It was a protracted affair lasting an estimated 12 years, lasting longer than even the Horus Heresy, which honestly is shocking. Commanding the illustrious army was none other than the noble Lord General Zukel, who himself had once been acquainted with Lord Commander Solar, the original, not the current, as in the one with the cool wings, not the guy with the horse. As it is, having a good and noble family will get you into pretty high places regardless of your qualifications. And a mastery of the Tactica Imperialis doesn't hurt either. As you fast forward through the trials and tribulations, the drama and the danger of the setting, we see that the entire campaign took a total of 17 years, meaning that the siege proper of Vraks Prime was the longest segment of this conflict. And it involved a staggering 34 regiments of the Astra Militarum, and eventually Vraks Prime would be inevitably reclaimed for the Emperor of Mankind in 830 M41. But at what cost? Well, it seems that the Imperium just kept throwing bodies at a problem until it solved itself, because a staggering 14 million guardsmen laid their lives down in order to take the planet back. And the planet's once thriving population of 8 million souls had either perished in the mayhem or succumbed to the seductive lures of chaos, meaning we have similar numbers here to those who died in World War I, because the death toll and the casualty toll are different things. And because of this, the Imperium would label Vraks as a desolate and forlorn Bedita. Basically, they got doomed to be isolated forever from the rest of the human species. And it was none other than one of the most well-known inquisitors, Lord Hector Rex of the Ordo Malleus, who deemed this to be the fate of this world. And like so, the Siege of Vraks became a testament to the valor of those who fought, and the tragedy to those who fell and lost their lives for naught. But it did show off that Lord Zukel was not just in charge because of his noble family, but truly earned his title as an imperial hero, never to be truly forgotten. Now, the whole kerfuffle started with the demise of Cardinal Xaphan and with the takeover by Cardinal Xaphan. But he wasn't just an ordinary successor, mind you. He was a self-proclaimed messiah, and in the 41st millennium, anybody calling themselves any type of messiah is never a good thing. This all started in the year 366.804 M41, when Cardinal Xaphan, after his extremely long 400-year life, passed. Said 400-year life only really existed because of the Adeptus Mechanicus Magos Biologus continually giving him rejuvenation treatments. Now, it's not specified which treatments they were giving him, whether they were giving him rejuvenation baths or they were doing the less popular but still there, chopping his head off and planting it in somebody else's body, which is both creepy and funny. Now, after his passing, Xaphan emerged as a rising power and the new cardinal of the Scaurus sector. Over the next 5 years, he essentially would embark on a pilgrimage, traveling the extensive expanse of his newfound domain. He and his entourage were visually nothing but awe-inspiring, featuring thousands of preachers, deacons, servants, and menials. But that wasn't all. Xaphan was also blessed with his personal bodyguard of Adeptus Sororitas, which were a gift from the abbesses of the Treacherous Priory of the Order of the Argent Shroud, and if they had just eliminated him early on, none of this would be a problem. But that seems to be a recurring issue with the Sisters of Battle. As they ventured forth, Xaphan knew faith alone would not shield him from the malevolent forces, so his entourage, bolstered with the strength of the Sisters of Battle, moved forward. And in the midst of everything, Vraks was a symbol of impending doom, as the whispers of chaos had begun to take root. This was in part due to the world soon becoming the stage for a blood-soaked spectacle. Xaphan's apocalyptic vision foretold of countless sacrifices, rivers of blood, skulls piled on high on the worship of the true gods. And at that point, again, the Sisters of Battle really should have just taken him out, but they didn't. And we're left to wonder, how exactly did the dark forces conspire within Vraks' besieged walls? And what horrors laid await? And how exactly did this apostate cardinal's reign originally mean to unfold? Unfortunately, some of these answers we'll never get, but that's the fun of the setting. What we do know is that his journey was not merely a sightseeing spectacle, but rather it was a way for him to immerse himself upon the lands of his destined rule, kindling the flame amongst the faithful to follow his ideas, as he saw himself as a messianic figure. Everywhere he went, religious devotion followed, in a manner very akin to the word bearers, and this religious fervor swept through the populace like wildfire. Oppressive regimes and tyrannical governments were essentially subverted by his divine presence, falling like dominoes into place. From planet to planet, his charisma was so great, one could consider it being Slaneshi in origin. And as he went on, his retinue would become a small army. His power and control became so overwhelming that the very ground trembled beneath the weight of his followers, as his words resonated with their souls, as if he were an Imperium. It seemed the universe itself, or rather the malevolent entities of the warp, conspired to elevate him to messianic heights, as fanatics fervently hailed him as the savior of their troubled times. Cardinal Xaphan's spiritual revival within the sector was a force to be reckoned with, and a tempest of faith and fervor kept building up around him, as he tore asunder the metaphorical and sometimes quite literal shackles of doubt and oppression, freeing people from the rule of the Imperium, all the while shackling it to his own ideological beliefs. Basically following the same path that Horus did, just more human. And amidst this, he beheld the might of his esteemed rank, reveling in the power that he had gained, because he not only wielded spiritual authority, but the power to subvert the Imperium in this sector, across the entire frontier of space he had been given to control. He saw himself as an instrument of divine justice, at the time believing he was doing it for the good of the Emperor's domain, and he was ready to confront anybody who doubted or challenged the Emperor's rule. Yet while on the surface he remained the same, deep down, the once humble man became a harbinger of upheaval as he began to lose control of himself. As if there weren't enough parallels to the Horus heresy, during the Cardinal's rise to power, there was an Erebus-like figure within the Cardinal's retinue. This was Deacon Mammon, a secret follower and devotee of chaos. He had only been a recent addition to the inner circle of the Cardinal's retinue, yet he had quickly woven a web of manipulation, steering Xaphan towards the dangerous path of chaos worship. Driven by ambition and cunning, Mammon painted a tantalizing picture to the Cardinal, that of a sacred champion chosen by the Emperor himself. One to lead the Imperium to a great resurgence in faith and glorious righteousness, further fueling the fires of fervor. Mammon basically whispered into the Cardinal's ears as he poisoned his thoughts and slowly but surely turned him to chaos. And as time went on, Xaphan began to view potential adversaries everywhere, doubting even his most loyal and faithful of companions. As the council became more and more insidious and corrupted, the Cardinal made his inner circle pledge undying loyalty to him and to go into a state of perpetual surveillance, lest any dissent arise. Emboldened by the years of pilgrimage, once he finally retreated to seclusion upon the hallowed world of Vraks. This world was incredibly steeped in history, housing the revered shrine of Saint Leonis the Blind, an ecclesiarchy missionary who had been met with the fate of martyrs in the 38th millennium. The shrine itself provided the Cardinal with both spiritual solace and functioned as a strategic and military stronghold. Within the confines of Vraks, Xaphan embraced the notion that the Imperium was infected with corruption. And he was right, but not for the right reasons. And he, being the messianic figure chosen by the God Emperor himself to cleanse it. And so the seeds of a holy war were sown. Being seen as a living saint caused the faithful to become galvanized behind his actions, deciding to purge the galaxy of the encroaching darkness, which in these circumstances meant everybody who didn't follow their specific religious creed within the Imperium in particular. But in reality, it was all just the corruption of the warp and the dark gods exploiting yet another valuable piece in their great game. Now, it's important to realize that the Cardinal himself lacked the authority to command the military forces of the planet directly, and that a potent defense mechanism had been laid behind the Basilica's grasp. The formidable Vraks militia, who in times of peril had been a force that was roused to protect the sanctum. However, Deacon Mammon, much like Erebus, was a master puppeteer, orchestrating a masterful symphony which drove all those who witnessed him into a symphony of fear and fervor. His preachers and missionaries, specifically chosen due to their expertise in manipulation, wove sermons that prophesied impending doom upon Vraks. The once serene world would quickly become shrouded in an aura of religious zealotry, which became an atmosphere rife for the Deacon's grand design. Within the seething cauldron of belief and fiery fervor, Mammon commenced the formation of a devoted inner circle within the Cardinal's inner circle, drawing from the ranks of the Veritas and the pilgrims who had pledged unwavering loyalty during Xaphan's original pilgrimage. Mammon fashioned a cadre of loyal, fervent followers, faithful who few could fault of fraternizing with the enemy. These chosen few would be dubbed disciples of Xaphan, and they fervently clung to the Cardinal's every word, and their hearts were set ablaze with zealotry much like those of chaos cultists. Yet Mammon's cunning knew no bounds, since he also set his sights on key figures within Vraks' garrisons and militia, particularly targeting the leadership of the planetary defense forces. And he quickly lured them into the Cardinal's inner circle, ensnaring them with promises of both power and glory. Eventually, within their ranks lay the steward of the Citadel and those who commanded the garrison militia upon the planet, all of which were completely swayed and bewitched by Mammon's almost supernatural charisma. The Deacon really did believe their unwavering loyalty was the most vital key to the Cardinal's grand design. Having secured almost the entirety of Vraks' military forces under Xaphan's command, nearly single-handedly, it must be noted that he fell short. The Adeptus Arbites contingent would remain an elusive prize, whose loyalty would never be within the Cardinal's grasp, being true worshippers of the Emperor's divine right, and they were in essence the last bastion outside of his influence. Amidst the labyrinthian halls of Vraks, the shadowy presence of the Inquisition's informers and spies lurked, as they vigilantly guarded against any hint of heresy within the Imperial cult, and inform the authorities of those who fell off the Emperor's righteous path. And it seemed like they had picked up on this powerful man and decided to attempt to pick him off, especially after whispers of his growing popularity reached the ears of the Ordo Hereticus, and due to them being fearful of a cardinal who might ascend to unprecedented heights of hubris, they dispatched an agent of the Officio Assassinorum, a skilled Vindicare sniper, whose sole duty was to silence Xaphan during one of his sermons. Patiently, the assassin would wait for solar days, his eyes squarely locked on the target, ready to extinguish his life and end his reign. Unfortunately, this would be one of the very few times a member of the Assassinorum would fail. As the opportune moment arrived, and the assassin shot, an eventful twist occurred. Fate was subverted. The Cardinal's Rosarius, which had a mounted refractor field, intervened in a way that was beyond its normal capabilities, and it denied the Vindicare assassin of his victory. The attempted assassination would then send shockwaves across Vraks, where rebellion would become stoked by the Cardinal's fervent gospel and the promise of a divine crusade. This quickly caused the spirits of oppressed laborer gangs to become roused, offering them a glimmer of escape and an outlet for their rage. With the assassin's attempts foiled, Vraks had officially erupted into a full-scale rebellion. The Citadel and the vast industrial might of the armory world now would fall fully under Xaphan's sway by seceding Vraks from the Imperium. And so the fabric of the Imperial supply chain was ruptured, leaving forces all across the sector and even beyond bereft of crucial arms and armor. This being truly what ruffled the feathers of those within the Imperium. As an example, Cadian regiments now found themselves sparsely equipped of very particular armaments, and due to the importance of said arms and armaments against the ever-encroaching terror of chaos, it was decided that the consequences of this rebellion were dire. For it seemed a major incursion by chaos loomed large. These particular arms and armaments from this area, not being provided to the Cadians, would give chaos a leg up. As the tides of rebellion washed over Vraks Prime, the watchful eyes of the Administratum knew that the world had to be reclaimed for the Imperium's glory, and the sector had to be cleansed of traitors and heretics alike. The heretical forces had officially become fully entrenched, their defenses nearly unrivaled, as a battery of orbital lasers loomed large, further shielding the Citadel from any attempt of bombardment or even assault from Space Marines. Now the mantle of responsibility for the siege would fall onto the greatest experts of siege warfare the Imperium had. These are the Death Korps of Krieg, who would fight with unyielding valor, but the traitors would hold firm, refusing to relent even when faced with overwhelming odds. This conflict would drag on for years and claim millions of lives, consuming them in the insatiable maw of war. Yet amidst the brutal symphony of war, there was no room for surrender from either side, as the struggle for dominance would include Space Marines, Chaos Space Marines, and even Titans. It seemed that Vraks would eventually just become a microcosm of what once was the Horus Heresy, a once hollowed world becoming a bastion of rebellion. However, this time, the Imperium would be the ones besieging, and thus the stage has been set for the Siege of Vraks, and I will be covering the entirety of the siege in excruciating detail in the following videos.